Welcome to the 6th and last module of the Google Sheets training. In this module, there are 2 lessons. Lesson 24 introduces us to pivot tables in Google Sheets, and Lesson 25 takes a close look at protecting worksheets. Let's dive right into the first lesson of this module. In this lesson, we are going to talk about pivot tables. We'll go through a step-by-step guide on how to create them, group the data in them, and create charts from them. Pivot tables are one of the most powerful and useful features in Google Sheets, and by the end of this lesson, you'll be able to use pivot tables to quickly and easily build good-looking reports from large data sets. Now let's look at what a pivot table is. You can think of a pivot table as a report. However, unlike a static report, the pivot table provides an interactive view of your data with very little effort and no formulas. You can look at the same data from different perspectives. You can group data into categories, break down data into years and months, filter data to include or exclude categories, and even build charts. The beauty of pivot tables is they allow you to interactively explore your data in different ways, and when your data changes, the pivot table refreshes to show a new summary. To create a pivot table from our data, we first highlight the entire data, including the header row. We then click on Insert and select Pivot Table. In the pop-up dialog box that appears, we select the location for the pivot table. It can either be inserted in the existing sheet or a new sheet. In this case, we will insert the pivot table in a new sheet. So we select New Sheet and click on Create. A new sheet is created with the name Pivot Table 8, and the Pivot Table editor opens on the right. Note that the number in the name depends on the number of pivot tables created within the workbook, including deleted ones. In the Pivot Table Editor pane, we will choose the columns from our data to use as the rows, columns, and values of the pivot table. Here, we will add rep as our row and units and total as our values. For values, you can generate a new field by performing some calculation on the existing columns. To do so, click on Add and choose Calculated Field. Enter a formula in the bar that appears, and under Summarize By, select Custom. Other options available are Average, Sum, Max, and Min. You have the option to add more rows. You can also add filters to your pivot table to control how your data is summarized. Now that you've learned how to create a pivot table, you can try with another dataset. Now, you are going to create a pivot table from a suggestion. In Module 1, Sheets Basics, you were introduced to the Explore feature in Sheets. Do you remember what was said about the Explore feature? It answers questions about your data with your data and suggests charts, formatting options, and pivot tables where applicable. In this demo, we are going to insert a pivot table suggested to us by the Explore feature. We will demonstrate this using some sample sales data. We begin by highlighting the entire data, including the header row. Then, on the Sheets toolbar, we click on the Explore icon. This brings up various insights and options for us to apply to our data. We scroll down to the Pivot Table section and click on More to see additional pivot table suggestions. We hover over the pivot table we want and click on the Insert Pivot Table icon at the top right corner. We can also click on the table shown to bring up a full snapshot of it, and then click on Insert Pivot Table at the top. This brings up the Create Pivot Table pop-up dialog box. We will then specify the location and click on Create. Quick and easy, right? Take note, if a pivot table isn't relevant per your data, none will appear. We will continue this lesson with how to group data in a pivot table. Data in a pivot table can be grouped by date, month, year, among others. We will look at how to group the rep. First of all, we will highlight the row we want to group, then right-click and select Create Pivot Group. This will group the data and make it expandable. Let's look at how to group dates in a pivot table. To group our date by month, we right-click on any of the dates and select Create Pivot Date Group. Next, we select one of the grouping options. We'll go with month. This will group our dates into month and return the totals for all the dates in that month. Coming up is how to create charts in pivot tables. Great! I hope you've taken some time to practice all we've been discussing. To wrap up this lesson, we'll learn about generating charts from our pivot table. We can generate different types of charts from our pivot table. We learned about charts in a previous module, specifically Module 5, Introduction to Charts. If you need a recap, pause this video and go back to it for a refresher. If you're all set, then let's continue. To create a chart from any pivot table, we first highlight our data and click on Insert and then Chart. This will create a default chart, in this case a waterfall chart. We'll go ahead and change the chart type to what we want, which in this case is a donut chart. And with that, we come to the end of this lesson.